It is the most famous rivalry in the history of the supercar. The prancing horse against the raging bull. Ferrari and Lamborghini, two Italian legends born just miles apart, locked in a battle that has lasted for 60 years. But here is what most people don't know. Lamborghini, the maker of some of the most beautiful and outrageous cars ever built, was never supposed to exist at all. It was born not out of a love of racing, but out of pure wounded pride from a single stinging insult delivered by Enzo Ferrari himself to a man he dismissed as nothing more than a builder of tractors. This is the story of how that insult created a legend. His name was Ferruccio Lamborghini. Born in 1916 to a family of grape farmers in northern Italy, Ferruccio was fascinated not by the land, but by the machines that worked it. He had a rare gift for mechanics. After the Second World War, he spotted an opportunity. Italy was desperate to rebuild and to farm, but tractors were scarce. So Ferruccio began building his own, cleverly assembling them from surplus military parts. His tractors were excellent, and his business exploded. Within a decade, he was one of the wealthiest industrialists in Italy, with factories producing tractors, heaters, and air conditioning units. He had earned a fortune, and with that fortune, the farmer's son began to indulge a growing passion: fast, beautiful, expensive cars. Naturally, that passion led him to the greatest name of all, Ferrari. Ferruccio bought his first Ferrari in the late 1950s and soon owned several. He adored their power and their beauty, but as an engineer, he was also frustrated. To him, these magnificent machines were flawed. They were loud, harsh, and roughly finished inside, brilliant on a racetrack, but crude as the luxury road cars they were sold as. And worst of all, they had a persistent, maddening fault. The clutches kept failing. Time and again, Ferruccio had to send his Ferraris back to Maranello for the same expensive repair. Then, one day, he made a discovery that changed everything. When he finally took one of the broken clutches apart himself, he recognized it instantly. It was the very same clutch from the very same supplier that he fitted to his own tractors, and he could repair it for a tiny fraction of what Ferrari charged. Armed with this knowledge, Ferruccio did something almost no one dared to do. He drove to Maranello to confront the great Enzo Ferrari in person, to tell him, as one industrialist to another, that his cars had a flaw, and that he, a humble tractor maker, knew how to fix it. It did not go well. Enzo Ferrari, proud, imperious, and utterly convinced of his own genius, was insulted to be lectured about clutches by a man who built farm machinery. According to legend, he looked at Ferruccio and said something that would echo through automotive history. The problem, he sneered, was not with the car. It was with the driver. Ferruccio should keep his hands on his tractors and leave the building of sports cars to Ferrari. Then he showed him the door. For most men, that would have been the end of it. But Ferruccio Lamborghini was not most men. Humiliated and furious, he drove home with a single thought burning in his mind. If Enzo Ferrari would not build him the perfect car, then he would build it himself, and he would build it better. This was no idle threat. He had the money, the factories, and the engineering brilliance to do it. In 1963, in the town of Sant'Agata Bolognese, just a short drive from Ferrari's own factory, he founded Automotive Lamborghini. His goal was audacious and clear: to create a grand touring car more powerful, more refined, and more reliable than anything wearing a prancing horse. The war between the bull and the horse had begun. Ferruccio knew that to beat Ferrari, he needed the very best. So he did something shrewd. He hired away some of the brightest young engineers in Italy, several of whom had cut their teeth at Ferrari itself. To design his engine, he turned to Giotto Bizzarini, a gifted and temperamental genius. The brief was simple: build a V12 to humble Maranello. Bizzarini delivered a masterpiece, a screaming four-cam 3.5-liter V12 that was more advanced than anything Ferrari had in a road car. Alongside him worked a young Gianpaolo Dallara, a name that would later become legendary in motorsport. In a matter of months, this hungry young team had built, from nothing, an engine that announced Lamborghini as a serious force. Now they needed a car to put it in. The first Lamborghini, the 350 GT, arrived in 1964, and it was, by every measure, exactly what Ferruccio had promised. It was fast and powerful, with that glorious V12, but it was also smooth, quiet, beautifully trimmed, and comfortable over long distances. It was, in short, the refined grand tourer that Ferrari had refused to build him. The motoring press was stunned that a company barely a year old, run by a tractor magnate, could produce something so accomplished. Lamborghini was no joke. It was a genuine rival, and the cars sold. But Ferruccio was not satisfied with merely matching Ferrari. He wanted to stun the world, to build something it had never seen before. And in 1966, he did exactly that. Its name was the Miura, and it changed everything. While Ferrari still mounted its engines in the front, Lamborghini's young engineers had a radical idea: to turn the V12 sideways and mount it in the middle of the car, behind the driver, a layout used only on pure racing machines. Then they wrapped it in a body designed by a young Marcello Gandini, and the result was breathtaking, low, sensuous, impossibly beautiful, like nothing else on earth. When the Miura was unveiled at the 1966 Geneva Motor Show, it stopped the entire show dead. Crowds swarmed around it. The Miura was faster, lower, and more exotic than any Ferrari road car, and many people consider it the very first true supercar. The tractor maker had not just caught Ferrari. For one glorious moment, he had left it behind. And then there was the badge. Ferruccio Lamborghini was born under the star sign of Taurus, the bull, and he had a deep love of the drama and spectacle of bullfighting. So he chose, as his emblem, a raging golden bull, a direct and deliberate challenge to Ferrari's prancing horse. He began naming his cars after great fighting bulls and famous bullfights. The Miura, named after a legendary breeder of fighting bulls, and later the Islero, the Espada, and the Jarama. And in 1974 came perhaps the most outrageous of them all, the Countach, a wild, sharp-edged wedge designed once again by Gandini. Its scissor doors and spaceship styling made it the dream car of an entire generation, plastered on bedroom walls all around the world. The Raging Bull was no longer just a rival to Ferrari. It was a global icon in its own right. But here lies the most delicious irony of the whole story. Enzo Ferrari built road cars only to fund his true love, racing. Ferruccio Lamborghini did the complete opposite. He deliberately refused to go racing at all. He believed motorsport was a ruinous waste of money and that his cars should be enjoyed on the open road, not thrashed around a circuit. The two men were mirror images, each obsessed with exactly what the other dismissed. Sadly, Ferruccio's empire would not last forever. In the 1970s, a collapsing tractor deal and a global oil crisis battered his finances, and he was forced to sell his beloved car company piece by piece. He retired to the countryside, where he spent his final years happily making wine on his own estate. He passed away in 1993. And yet, the company he built in a fit of rage has never stopped roaring. Decades later, Ferrari and Lamborghini remain the two great rivals of the supercar world, the horse and the bull, forever locked together. Every screaming Lamborghini that tears down a road today exists for one simple reason: because Enzo Ferrari once told a tractor maker to know his place. It is, perhaps, the greatest example in history of turning an insult into an empire. Ferruccio Lamborghini didn't just get angry, he got even, and in doing so, he gave the world some of the most beautiful machines ever made. If you enjoyed this story, Subscribe to Automotive Stories for more legends from the world of cars. And tell me in the comments, the horse or the bull? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.